All right, in this video, I want to give an updated timeline of my studies of Daniel and Revelation and how I see things playing out. I made a video, I'm not sure if it's on my new TikTok channel, so if you're watching this on TikTok, you'll have to go check out one of my YouTube, BitChute, or Rumble channels there. It's on Rumble, it's some guy JD or some guy 16 or some guy JD 16. I don't remember. So you're going to have to try one of those out. Yeah, sorry about that. But if you use BitChute, it should be the Dog Deuce or some guy who goes by JD. That's the name of it. Some guy who goes by JD. On YouTube, the ones I got going right now are the Dog Deuce and JD Morin or Morin. You can check those ones out. It's Morin if you don't know how to spell that. And you can check the video out there. And in the video that I'm talking about, I break down the chronological order of Revelation, the chapters, because Jews don't think linear like we do. Like I'm going to do here, I'm going to put a start point here. Weird looking S here. And then we have over here an end point. Right? The way they look at it is they go to start. They will go to the end, but they're kind of like jumping over things, and all of a sudden they'd be at the end. And then they'll tell you the story again, and they will cover some of the parts that they didn't, and maybe go over some of the parts they did, and then they get to the end. And then they'll tell you the story again, and they'll cover some more parts, and maybe more about towards the end, right? So they keep telling you the story, but from different angles and perspectives, right? So that when you put it all together, you're able to see it. You know, kind of like if you ever watched a show or a movie where it starts off, you're watching the movie from a certain character's point of view, and it's like, oh, we already get to the end of the movie. Or just about, right? And all of a sudden, it rewinds back to the beginning, but this time you're going to look at the events through the eyes of a different character. Right? And that's kind of how the Jews write. I guess I accidentally hit the grid there. Sorry about that. So what I'm going to do is just do a timeline here. And I know it's taken a while for me to get there. But how I see things playing out. So, without further ado, let's do this. So where we're going to start is that things are going to get weird. So we're going to start here where things they're already weird, right? But they're going to get weirder. America's going to be flexing. And we're going to see bricks rise up. These are going to be probably the 10 kings. And America is the revived Roman Empire. It is the iron and clay. And it's going to mix with these 10 kings of bricks that are forming. We see it all forming now. And I don't know how long until the rapture. Right? But these things, we see these things starting to form right now. The beast hasn't come up out of the sea, but we're going to see a rapture around this time. You know, it looks like it's right around the corner because these things are already there, right? Because they're already starting to form a digital currency. They want to have some kind of, what kind of ID they call it? Some kind of, I don't know, national ID, something you're going to have to use to travel and all this stuff. You know, more steps to leading to this mark to be able to use your digital bank account, right? And we see it all coming together right now. But at the rapture, what I see end up happening is World War III. You know, the old system, they getting this system prepared right now. That's what we see going on. And World War III breaks out to make sure the old system is destroyed. New York is gonna burn right after the rapture. And that's when the capital, or the home of the man of sin, DJT, will move to Jerusalem. And he'll build his home and the temple. Right? Now, how much time passes for all this, I'm not sure. Like how long the war is and how long until he moves and sets up in Israel, I am not sure. But I just know World War I, they had the Balfour Declaration to end up starting to build Israel as a nation. Then World War II, all of a sudden they made Israel a nation. World War III, Israel will become the head of the nations. The iron and clay will be completely mixed, as the iron in the statue of Daniel 2 is Rome. But then it becomes iron and clay. And when it mentions the clay, it says that it's miry clay. It's baked clay. So miry means dirty. So the clay has fallen into the dirt and it's baked, so it's hardened. So it's just stuck in its ways. So this clay represents God's people. God's people are Israel, and you can say Christians. But since they're miry and baked, they are apostate Jews, apostate Christians, and they have mingled with the iron, right, with Rome. As the Roman Empire fell, it mixed with, first, Judaism, where the Jews said, "We have no king but Caesar," when they gave up Jesus. And then the Christians, they did the same thing with Constantine, and joining with the Roman Empire. And then that system right there, where the papacy, we're going to have a third pope. You know, some of this stuff is going to be happening around the same time. So we'll put this dot like here. It's going to be happening in here. We're going to have a, I don't know why I put third pope. I'm thinking third temple. But we're going to have a new, sorry about this, a new Roman pontiff. And he is the false prophet. And he's the head of this Babylonian religion. But the Roman Empire has to do with the two legs, right? There's 2 feet. It has to do with Europe and America are the 2 feet of this Roman Empire. That's iron and clay. That's kind of revived. It's a mixture of Rome using Roman law, admiralty law, law of the sea, a mixture of God's people's law, Christians with the common law, and Jews with the 10 Commandments and the law of Moses. It's a mixture of believers and unbelievers, right? A mixture of the Jews and Gentiles. It's a whole bunch of mixing. It's a bunch of Babylon, right? Because Europe and America mixing races, even genders and sexes. They're mixing religions and all kinds of things together. It's a melting pot just of everything, because it's the iron and clay, right? All coming together. And it's the 2 feet. I believe this guy here is what people call the Antichrist, and the new pope will be the false prophet supporting him. And what the false prophet will do is get the religions to come together and get the people to support Donald Trump here. And around this same time, we'll put another dot here. We're going to have aliens, right? Really? Is that what this is, aliens? No. You see the fallen angels showing up, pretend to be aliens, saying, "We're coming to help because you're destroying yourselves in world war," and they're probably going to use nuclear weapons, so they're going to say they're coming to help because of that, so you don't destroy yourselves and destroy the earth, right? But that's not really why, right? They're really fallen angels, and they're trying to get people to end up following them and joining with them to fight against God because he's returning here. Right? This is the return. And they're trying to get the world to unite together with them, even worship them, to fight against God when he returns. So, we read about Babylon is fallen. It starts off with New York being that destruction. But we see it happen again, and I see it happening again where, just like in 70 AD, Rome destroys Jerusalem. I believe that happens again. There's nothing new under the sun, right? So we're going to eventually have the point where he claims to be God in that temple. We'll put that here, right? Claims to be God, and he is receiving a deadly wound, but he raises from the dead at this time. But right here, back at the beginning, we have the two witnesses show up, and this is at the time where he ends up killing the two witnesses, but they are resurrected and caught up to heaven. Right? They're told to come up hither, and they're raptured up, just like what happens to John in Revelation 4, where he is raptured up, representing the one body of the church. Right? So, we got that going on there, and I believe that's when he decides he's going to turn on the Jews. He ends up destroying Jerusalem. But not completely and totally, right? Not annihilating it where there's nothing left standing kind of thing. But he's going to go after it where Babylon is fallen, because I believe Jerusalem will be the center of trade with the world after New York goes down and World War III finishes. Jerusalem is going to just rise up pretty strong and powerful. You know, all the Jews that are around the world that are kind of leaving Israel right now because they're fear of being destroyed by the surrounding nations, they're all going to come back. So there's going to be a huge populace that's going to grow really fast. And it's going to lead to all this, where zealous Jews are probably going to be the one that put JT down, or DJT down. Dang. DJT down when he actually claims to be God. And that's why he ends up turning on them. And, yeah. So, for all this time, we also have this would here, this false prophet here would be the lamb-like beast from Revelation 13. And once the move is made over here, this is the Revelation 13 beast with the 7 heads, 10 crowns that we also see in Revelation 17. Right? And what ultimately happens to the woman riding the beast? And the woman is represented as a city, but it's also apostate church, because a woman represents a church, a group of believers. So they're apostate Jews, apostate Christians. I think the first time we see Babylon's fallen, because it's mentioned twice, is New York. The second time, sometime after this midpoint, we have Israel being just attacked. We'll put Jerusalem attacked. And then a huge army is starting to come at him towards the end. We'll put the 200 million man army starts coming. But during this time, obviously, the seals are being opened. The trumpets are going off. The 7 last plagues are being poured out. Right? As things are just getting progressively worse. And it's urging people to take the mark of the beast. I believe the mark of the beast comes out pretty soon after the destruction here of New York and the move over to Israel and World War III ends. Then we're going to see the mark of the beast. But it's going to be like what we saw with the jibber jab, in 2020 there, when they didn't force it, but they kept progressively getting it worse. Like, hey, if you take it, you'll get like a coupon to Chick-fil-A or McDonald's, or we'll give you some pizza and some donuts if you come and get it. Yeah, right. Woohoo! Right? And then it was, all right, well, I don't know, maybe they ended up giving out some money. I think they did something like that in some places. And then, oh, that didn't work. All right, well then, hey, we will make it where you can't go to stores. You shouldn't be allowed in the stores. You shouldn't be allowed to go to schools. We shouldn't be allowed to go into society, right? They started to threaten that. Like, maybe you shouldn't be able to go to work. Right? They progressively stepped it up. So they'll do the same thing here. And by the time here, maybe even before that, I don't know. But by this time, this is when you have it or die. So take or die. So the mark of the beast is still going to be there. It's just not going to be enforced until later on. So there's a lot of people who are going to think it's okay to take the mark of the beast because it's not enforced here. All right, let's put a not. Not enforced. So that's going to fool people into thinking it's okay to take because they're like, yeah, they're not saying I can't buy or sell without it. And it's like, yeah, because they haven't enforced it yet. So there's a lot of people who are going to take it because, oh, they're not enforcing it. They're not making me take it. But yeah, because they know the first group of people who take it are idiots. Right? They know they can get a bunch of people to take it without forcing it. It's only later on that there's going to be resistance that eventually gets to the point where it's like, okay, now the rest of the people who won't take it, we have to force it. We got to try to really put the pressure on. They take it. They're cut off from society. They can't buy or sell. Matter of fact, if they don't take it, they die. Right? So that's how I see that playing out. And then this part here, starting from here, is about 3.5 years. And this first part here, from here to here, is 3.5 years roughly. And during this time, at the end, things are just getting worse. Most of the main stuff that we see has happened, and now it's just judgment. Right? Because the people who have taken it, the mark, they're getting plagues, and they seek death and they can't find it because whatever they took makes it where they can't die. So, it's something really weird. And yeah, things just get worse until this whole thing happens where they're like, we're going to destroy all of the Jews because it's their fault. It's all their fault. And they don't want Jesus to return, to have anybody there to return to. They want to have the complete control of the earth, and everybody's on their side to fight against him, and that there's no authority for Jesus to return because there's nobody there to save. They want the earth to themselves. And if there's nobody here to save, right, because he says no flesh be saved when he comes back, if he didn't come back soon, right, if he didn't cut the time short. So he comes back because by this time where the mark of the beast, it's going to destroy flesh because the people who take it are not going to be human anymore. They're going to be changed, either being cybernetic or genetically altered. And then the people who won't take it, they're being killed, and they're probably being used for food. Things are going to get so bad where I'm not even sure I know how to spell cannibalism. Cannibalism. I think it's something like that. And I don't know when this part right here would start, but it would happen pretty soon, right? World War III and the nuclear stuff probably caused a lot of issues with the farming. And only those who take the mark, they're going to let eat, at least the good stuff, healthy stuff. And then people are going to end up resorting to the cannibalism. Just like in 70 AD, when Rome went and besieged Israel. That's a representation, or Jerusalem, I should say. It's a depiction of what's going to happen to the world, where it was so bad that they ended up eating their own children. real bad stuff going on while they're being sieged because their pride, they wouldn't just surrender anything. And yeah, that's going to happen until finally Israel repents. And we'll put a pair of eyes here. They look up and they're like, blessed is he that comes in the name of the Lord. Right? And then Jesus comes down to the Mount of Olives with all the believers that were raptured, destroying the enemies that are coming against Israel, and lands on the Mount of Olives, splitting it open, and then walks into Jerusalem through the closed-up, barricaded East Gate and establishes his kingdom for 1,000 years. And from there, we can talk again, right? After that, we can talk about what's going to happen at the end of the 1,000 years. But this is what I see happening right now. And then soon is this right here. I don't think what just happened here in April was Passover. I think it's next month. And check out Ricardo Garcia, where he shows about where the moon and the sun have to be in the constellation of the ram for it to be the first month that people call Nisan or Abib or Aviv, where Passover is. And then once that happens, we can look at Passover as a potential time of a rapture, and then go from there to Shavuot, the Feast of Weeks there. That is my bet, is that it's at Shavuot, which would be going into the summer there. The Feast of Weeks, where Jesus ascended. And I hope I'm wrong, though. I'm hoping it's like at the true Passover here coming up. That would be cool. Because these things are going to happen. These things are going to get worse. Because the system that we're in right now here is dying. They're trying to get rid of it. They're speeding things up to destroy it because they know, hey, we got to hurry up and bring in this new system. And you can tell that they're working overdrive. They're doing Project Warp Speed is what they call it. So they're speeding all that up. This is being, we're going to be warp speed, right? They are, all that, there we go. Warp speed and going after this and trying to create this beast to come up out of the sea. But at the rapture, we'll have the World War III destruction of New York. Probably a lot more destruction than that, but that's going to be the big thing. Babylon has fallen the first time there. Goes down. 2 witnesses show up. We'll also have at this time like 3 angels preaching, wanting not to take the mark of the beast. They're preaching the everlasting gospel, not the gospel of being saved by grace, which you can be saved by right now if you lay down your life and righteousness at the cross by faith right now, understanding that you don't deserve heaven, you deserve hell, and there's nothing you can do to save yourself. All you can do is cry out to God for his mercy and grace. Then he is more than willing to take your life, put it to the cross through Jesus Christ, and to give you his life and his righteousness to cover you so that you'll be saved and can't be lost. Because in order for you to be lost, God himself would have to be a sinner, because you're clothed with his righteousness if you accept this by faith. And then you're sealed by the Holy Spirit. Ephesians 1:13, Ephesians 4:30. And you're sealed until the day of redemption. The day of redemption is the rapture, when we get taken up. He comes to redeem what he has. He comes to take what he has redeemed. So you can be part of that, and I hope you are. And then you can avoid what's coming here. And this is kind of probably left over for people to look at once we're gone and be like, wow, this is what happened. It might be not exactly in this order, or a little bit cleaner, messier, I don't know. But they'll have a rough idea, a really rough idea of how things are going to be. Yeah, just compare this to other people who are putting stuff out. My other videos that help you better understand, because we can see these things coming. So with all that being said, thank you for watching. Take care. I'll see you in the next one. And I forgot to ask you to pray for me to keep this ministry going and me going until Jesus comes and gets me. Just an amen in Jesus' name. That would be awesome. Please like, subscribe, hit the bell icon, share the video, share the channel, interact in the comments section. These things help, especially if you throw your stuff at me saying I don't agree with you or I do agree with you and why. Like maybe you can throw some things at me that add to what I'm saying, or throw some things at me to show me how no, these things are off. All right, that's awesome. Iron sharpens iron, right? I'm not infallible, and I am not monetized, so I'm supported by the generosity of people like you who can and want to support financially. I got 4 ways you can do so in the info box below. Every little bit helps. So with all that being said, thank you so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.